Hello and welcome to our Thought Leadership Series. My name is James Martinez. I'm the Assistant Director for Graduate Programs here at the Maryland Davies College of Business. Joining us today for the Thought Leadership Series is Ms. Kiara Rodriguez. Kiara is an entrepreneur. She's an alumni of the MBA program here at the University of Houston downtown and is currently a contract specialist at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Hosting today's session is the Dean of the Maryland Davies College of Business. His name is Dr. Jonathan Davis. Dean Davis.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Ms. Kiara Rodriguez. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. Kiara is one of our recent alums who is out in the field doing the work and is a wonderful example of an alumnus who's increased skills here and is able to talk to us about what it takes to translate those skills into an early career afterwards. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start with our first question. I have a list of prepared questions. We'll take about 30 or 40 minutes to go through, and then we'll have questions from the audience. So audience, be thinking of those questions. I'll start with, when you graduated from UHD, what was the biggest adjustment you faced into moving into the professional world afterwards?
I want to say it was the loss of the structure within the class. So, for example, when you're presented with a problem in the classroom, you're oftentimes given the problem, the variables affecting it. And in some sort of way, with the lessons, with the textbooks, you are guided towards a possible solution or how to get to your solution. But when you move into, for example, contracting, you know you have to resolve this problem. But as you're progressing through it, unknown variables come up. Your deadlines shift. Your approvals change. You have a change in administration. You have a change in management. So now you have to think, now you have to go back 5 steps and redo the work and shift the goal. So that shifting environment, I like to say that my work is more of a shifting sands, and you have to be able to flow with it to get to what you ultimately need to get to.
So whereas in the coursework, the structure was provided by the institution or the teacher, the instructor, in your career, you needed to build your own structure.
Absolutely. And sometimes that structure gets moved again.
Yeah.
And the goal gets shifted. So you have to be aware of that and cognizant.
Is that what you expected upon leaving and going into your career? Or was that an adjustment that you had to make mentally?
It's very much an adjustment because in my mind, especially because I had already gotten the job when I graduated, I thought this is going to be structured. It's a federal agency. And then while doing the work, that's when I realized, wow, there is a lot more at play here than I could even fathom.
So you got both your BBA and your MBA here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find that those two prepared you for this experience?
The BBA for me was essentially getting the tools that I needed to not only move forward in my own business, but to progress into my own career. And the MBA, what it did was it really sharpened those tools and honed my skills. So I felt comfortable transitioning into a career where I needed to sit in strategic conversations. And I felt comfortable really going through costs and price analysis. So I felt it gave me the basis that I needed.
So just for the audience, which areas of study did you do in your BBA and MBA?
So my BBA is in general business. I wanted to have flexibility with my electives. And then when I went into my MBA, I stacked my concentrations. So effectively, I have 3. Concentrations are in finance, investment management, and supply chain management.
3, okay. So that's probably an unusual combination of different things. There are probably not that many students who did all of those. You might be unique in that way. The question I would ask then is, like, given that you took those things, how did you find that they shaped your career or your direction?
First and foremost, it was going to give me a broader opportunities as far as to what career I would eventually progress into. And then I realized that they're more intertwined than a lot of people realize. So, for example, when COVID-19 hit, we really got to see how any disruption in the logistics and supply chain really just affected everything else. The stock valuations tanked. The economy kind of dropped, and everything, you don't realize they really are interlocked.
Mm-hmm. So for the audience, my particular profession, when I teach, is in supply chain management. Mm-hmm. So one thing I found about that time was Suddenly, after 2020, I no longer had to explain to anybody what supply chain management meant.
Yes.
Everybody understands and understands the importance of it. So that's interesting. So you came out of your experience at UHD with a lot of possible directions that you could have gone with it. Did you know, at what point did you know that you were going to take the direction that you have?
In all honesty, it is the direction I'm going in now. But that doesn't, I'm not set in it. I'm very open to other opportunities, but I very much like what I'm doing. It's things that I love. I get to work with numbers, and I get to really, the way I see my employers, I see it as my own company. So I get to defend that and really talk to interesting people and touch interesting projects. So I feel very comfortable where I am, but I'm not set on it. If something else comes up and I feel it's a better opportunity, then that's where I'm going.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. I'll tell you why. I love to talk with people, particularly who are very late in their careers, who have an interesting story to tell. And I'll ask them, how did you get from where you started to where you are today? And invariably, they don't say, well, I went to school to study to do exactly what I'm doing, and I got an entry-level job doing exactly what I'm doing, and I progressed throughout a 40-year career, and just it was a perfectly straight line. That doesn't happen. What happens is somebody tells this meandering story of the different roles in life that they've had that led them to that moment, and I think that resonates with me a lot, what you just said. Given where you currently are in your career, and maybe where you expect to be soon, what would you say were the skills, the takeaways from your programs here that really have most empowered you in your role at Johnson Space Center?
So while I was doing the supply chain courses, I used Excel a lot. And I remember thinking there's got to be something more sophisticated than this at NASA. And no, there isn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that there isn't. It's that a lot of our cost proposals come through as Excel spreadsheets. And I want to say that that's the strongest, that's what I lean into the most, that experience and what I got to do within my courses, because that taught me how to read the formulas, what tools I have within the program itself that shows me. For example, you go to formulas and you go track precedence, and it shows you a line and it gives you a visual of what you're looking for. So I want to say that that's, out of all the skills, I think that's one of the strongest ones that I use on a day-to-day.
Let's linger on that a little bit, just because I feel very strongly about what you're saying, and I think our students could really use some inspiration on that point. I mean, talk to me about what that particular skill enables you to do and empowers you to do, and that maybe talk to them about what you think they should do in terms of getting that skill where it needs to be for a career.
Okay. So, for example, one of the things that my contracting officer and I work the most on is we actually set up templates within Excel, and that's what we send out to contractors when we're expecting proposals. It makes it easier for us because the formulas are already set in. They just have to put in their numbers. And so that way we are able to see where the costs are going. Overhead, G&A, inflations, escalation rates. Because we built the Excel, we have a stronger sense of what's happening within it.
You control it.
Exactly.
And you can change it if you
Absolutely.
need to.
And so that gives us a stronger base when we're negotiating and counter offering. And so, I mean, that's just professionally. In my personal life, I run all my bills through Excel. My loads, I created templates for other people that I work for that will actually break out what their dispatch percentage is and what percentage goes to factoring. So I personally use it in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think there's no more extensible, flexible, accessible tool than spreadsheets for really supercharging what you do. And I found the same thing to be true for myself. When I started my career, I didn't really know it. And very quickly, upon getting in over my head on some certain things, it became obvious, oh gosh, I need to know this. And so I dove deeply into it, and I've never regretted the time I spent learning it well, because it turns you into almost a magician.
It really does.
At work.
Everyone
really says, oh, well, that's the person who can do the amazing things with the tool, and you become the go-to person. So students, if you're listening, really dive into it.
And I'm sure there are other sophisticated software, but Excel works for me.
Well, the thing about it, I think most people, I'll speak for myself at least, I would have expected to hear when I was a student that Johnson Space Center uses some extremely specific, sophisticated tool in everything that it does. And the reality is Johnson employees are people, just like everyone else. And the tools that work for people are the tools that work for people at Johnson Space Center too. So,
Very much so.
Yeah. Anyway, changing gears a little bit.
Okay.
I know when you're in your MBA program, we have what's known as the Corporate Fellow Program, which means you've got somebody in the room from industry in the field of that course that's being taught there to, contribute to the class. Can you talk about that experience, what value it had for you, and just what it was like, and any takeaways that you had from it?
It's actually one of my favorite parts of my graduate schooling, because every corporate fellow I had really took the lesson and put it into a real life perspective. For example, I remember finance, Mr. Joe Bentley, fantastic, because he would take the lesson and something that was, for lack of a better term, something that was 2D on a board, he made it 3D.
Interesting, yeah.
And so we could see, and he would kind of tell us, this is, yes, he's showing you the formula and he's showing you how to get there. But when you're looking at stocks, when you have a client, when you're looking for your own investments, this is how it works and this is how it moves. And so getting that little bit of perspective, it makes it almost like, okay, I'm not learning this just to learn it and to pass a class. This is something that's actually valuable for my future.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and it's interesting your point of view. So I came to UHD as a professor early in my career after graduating with my doctorate. And one of the reasons I wanted to come to UHD was because there was a specific focus on real world skills, on applied learning. It was not just, we're going to talk about the textbook perfect scenarios, but we're going to actually bring it to the level of practice.
Yes.
And the way that has developed over time has been in part this Corporate Fellow program. And I've taught classes in the Corporate Fellow MBA program many times. It's been the best teaching experience of my career, is to be in a room with somebody like you're talking about, like Joe Bentley, who I know well, and who can contextualize what you're saying with stuff that they left work that day having done.
Yes.
And bring it to the class and say, well, yeah, that's an interesting idea, and here's how it works at my office.
Yes.
And then there's a great conversation amongst the MBA students about how it works in theirs.
Yes.
So it's been very rewarding for me.
It gives it depth. It gives the lesson some sort of depth.
Yeah, I love the way you put it. That it turns a 2D idea into a 3D idea. I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
I'll try to attribute it to you whenever possible.
Okay.
What would you say skills that turned out to be more important than you expected? Anything come to mind?
Flexibility and adaptability. Like I mentioned earlier, particularly in contracting, it's shifting sands. Especially, for example, with NASA, that's such an agency that's so heavily dependent on research and development. Sometimes the expected outcome cannot be reached within the time frame. Things change. Contract terms change. Weather affects your launches, and you have to be able to move and adapt. And, change around your contracting, move your security. We couldn't get them there at this time. We need to move them to a later time. So flexibility is, I want to say, the biggest skill.
So talk a little more about flexibility. In your experience, do you build that flexibility into the work along the way? Or is it just that you need to be ready to abandon kind of the plan and make a new plan at any point?
Well, sometimes it's not abandoning the plan in its entirety. It's, we are taking now, instead of taking a linear route, we're now zigzagging our way there. It's kind of, just to kind of put it into, yes. So for example, sometimes we've had contract extensions that were meant to be 2 years, and all of a sudden we've been told, no, it's 1 year. You got to go back and redo all your paperwork. You got to resend it through all the approvals. Okay, so now we got to go back, and I'm shifting priorities, and you're doing that extension, and all of a sudden you get an emergency security task order that you have to put into place. Okay, I'm shifting that. So it's constantly being able to manage and move around your priorities and be cognizant. Yes, I'm working on this now. I still have this pending back here. I got to rearrange and move with it.
Yeah. Which is a lot different than in class where you have an assignment and it remains the assignment all the way until the due date.
Right.
It doesn't particularly change.
Right.
So that's interesting. Shifting gears a little bit, I know that Johnson Space Center is not your only career that you're working on. You've got some entrepreneurship going on in your life.
Yes, sir.
You've grown this venture while doing the professional career at Johnson Space Center and other places. How did that entrepreneurship influence your career mindset as, I guess, an employee and a leader at Johnson?
So my experience as being a business owner really resonates when I am negotiating at work, because I consider Johnson Space Center my business in the sense that I need to protect it. I need to negotiate to the best of my abilities, not only because it's taxpayer funds that are going into this, but I want to make sure that it's not getting, that someone's not abusing their connections, and there's complete transparency in the negotiation process.
When you say negotiation, you mean negotiating with vendors,
right,
for services and goods, to
right?
Johnson.
And we have to verify that the contractors are, have all their documentation in order. And when we're looking through proposals, we have to make sure that what they are in fact proposing is needed. I've gotten proposals where we're buying drills every year. We're replacing drills, and it makes no sense. And there's travel where there shouldn't be travel. So I take it very personally because I see Johnson Space Center as my own business, and I've taken that kind of owner mentality, and I take it into work with me.
Are there particular aspects of the work you do in your own business that have translated to your work at Johnson Space Center?
Yes, as far as when I'm looking at the accounting, when I'm going over the contracts. And funnily enough, it's actually gone into the logistics portion of it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe at some point there was a question about we needed to switch out a truck bed. And I remember thinking, that's not right. That doesn't sound right. I've never seen that. And I brought it up, and it happened to be, and they realized through, investigating a little further that was an unnecessary expense that the contractor was requesting, that they could have easily swapped it out for another truck. We didn't need to pay for the replacement of the bed. So it helped. And I felt that that's what I do the job for. I'm safeguarding.
Does it go the other way? Like, are there things that you are taking from your career experience at Johnson Space Center that you plug into and support your entrepreneurship?
Patience.
Patience, okay.
Patience. Realizing that I may not know it all. I don't know all the variables, and really digging through the contracts, the clauses, what is being said, what is being said verbally, and then what's being put on paper and what's being signed. So NASA has taught me to be a lot more diligent, and so I've translated that into my own business as well. Patience
and diligence; those are good words to use. Yeah. I will just shift gears again. So, on the front end, you've been at Johnson Space Center for how long?
About 3 years now.
About 3 years. So what approach or what strategies or how did you get into Johnson Space Center? What advice would you give somebody who was interested in a career at Johnson Space Center?
So I think that the perception of NASA is that it's just science. If you're not a science major, there's really not a place for you. And once I actually joined, I realized this is a full functioning business in the sense that there's a marketing department, there's communications, there's legal, there's business, negotiations, there's accounting, there's finance. And so for anyone who wants to get into NASA, see what your chosen field is or what it is. There's more than likely there is a place for you at NASA in some point, and it's some, in some department, because it is at the end of the day a full-blown business.
Yeah. Huge organization.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a city unto itself.
Oh, absolutely. Really. Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of your career progression, how important was networking and mentorship?
So when you work for the government, when you work for the federal government, they have a very precise hiring process. And while networking is great because you actually are in front of your managers and they put a face to the conversation and to the name, honestly, networking has worked better for me in my personal life with my business. For example, while I was doing my undergrad, I joined the sorority Kappa Delta Chi. I made really great friends. And actually, one of my closest friends right now I met through the sorority. And she is my best sounding board for business ideas. we sit and we talk and we negotiate, and I review her business plans and she reviews mine, and we go back and forth. And that was part of the networking. I opened myself up to meeting new people, because you never know who is going to give you the best advice.
So as a business owner and runner and developer, clearly you need clients, you need resources, you need all kinds of things that even a small entrepreneurial business requires. Do you find that your networks are the places that you get those things, or how do you grow and build your own business?
So in my own business, the best way to network is for brokers to trust you, in the sense that we picked up in the right time, the load got there at the right time. So there's a sense of trust that's built between the broker and myself. Once that is established, then they're calling you for the load. You're no longer out there trying to, hey, I've got a truck. What do you have? Can you give me a little more? That negotiation process goes away, because there's now a trust. Yeah. So they call you, hey, I have a load. You have a truck. Yeah, sure. And they basically do my job for me.
So again, it is relationships, but it's delivering on promises and creating an environment of trust.
Absolutely. Keeping open communication, making sure that you're letting them know if there are any delays. But yeah, absolutely. You have to network and build that.
So I think this next question is something that all of us have a painful story to tell about. I'm curious to know yours.
Okay.
Could you share an early career mistake that became some kind of a turning point or a learning experience?
An early career mistake. I want to say this goes back to even before I came back to school. I used to work for another federal agency, and I was absolutely miserable in my time there. And one day I was sitting in a meeting and I was so miserable, and I decided, this is it. That's it. I'm done. And I walked out, and that's when I decided to come back to school. I was 32. I had my 3 kids. My husband was on the road. But I knew that if I did not make a major change, that I was going to end up there with no other choices. And so returning to college and actually completing it that time, I knew that the sacrifice was going to be worth it.
Yeah. I think a lot of our students have a similar story to tell of, beginning college early and not making it through the first time around, and then coming back and finding a place like UHD to be that place to finish.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. What advice do you have for students trying to build credibility and confidence in that early phase of their career? Someone comes out of UHD with a degree, they're into the workforce, they've gotten a job, they're excited about it. How do they build? How do they belong? How do they make those first steps?
Well, trust in your knowledge. Trust in the fact that you've got the degree, which obviously means you studied, you did the work, you passed the classes. So you have the knowledge, even though sometimes we question ourselves. Because every now and then I'll sit somewhere and be like, did I learn this? Yes, I did learn this. And it clicks, it'll fall into place. So lean into your strengths. And knowledge, we have a phrase that's basically translated. It translates to, knowledge is disseminated amongst the world. Nobody holds it all.
Yeah.
So if you want to build confidence, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And work towards it. Pick up a book, you watch a YouTube video. There is so much more information out there. It's
incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an immense amount of information out there that's free, and make those connections and talk to people that are like-minded individuals, and you will find yourself in a much more confident state of mind.
I like that advice. I think too often we're encouraged to focus on what we're not strong at and fix ourselves about that on that topic. And when really I think that's often better advice to say, hey, what are you strong about? What's strong about you that you can already bring to bear? Right. And highlight that and become your best version of yourself in that way. It's as an academic leader, a dean of a college, what I have to be conscious of is I'm not good at everything that needs to happen around here. Right. No one could be.
There's no way.
And so what I need to know is what I can be really good at, and what are the things that I need to surround myself with people who are good at them to support me. And I think that's true of us throughout our careers. So thank you for that answer. Now, you've been, of course, you have your own career experience, and you've been at Johnson Space Center for long enough now to, I think, answer this question. What would you say separates those who come in and advance quickly from those who struggle early?
It's an interesting question. I think those who would typically advance quickly are people who, number one, are flexible. I'm very big on being able to change priorities. And also people who can advocate for themselves.
Interesting.
In the sense that we have reviews every 6 months. And unfortunately, your managers have too many people to follow. So be able to write down what your accomplishments have been, and really advocate for yourself. Hey, I deserve this promotion because I did this and I've done that and I've done that. Or I deserve this raise because this is what I've accomplished and this is what I've done and this is the teams I have participated in. So I think that's a very big piece. Advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think across our range of students here, there are lots of them who struggle to do that. And it's important to be able to tell your story in a way that supports your growth. Sometimes people personally feel their personality just doesn't make them feel comfortable tooting their own horn, as you might say. Or sometimes it's a cultural barrier. But for whatever reason, I think a lot of people struggle. So, students, enter your career and tell your story. Advocate for yourself.
Absolutely.
You heard it here.
I am one of those people. It's funny because people ask me, what do you do for work? I'm a buyer. I'm like, oh, where do you work? Oh, just a federal agency. And they have to really dig for me and I'm kind of shy about tooting my own horn. And it was the other day that I was talking to my daughter, my oldest, and I told her I don't do anything special. She's like, Mom, what were you talking about the other day? I was like, oh, we had to set up the security for the shuttle that we had to transport. And she's like, yeah, and how many people say that on a regular basis? It's like, you're right. Okay, so maybe I am doing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely advocate.
When you're embedded in a thing, sometimes it's harder to see what's special about it. And
it's my day-to-day.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Understood. Well, I think that's all of our main questions here. I want to take an opportunity to turn it over to our audience. Hopefully our audience has been thinking of some good questions and putting them into the chat so that we can hear from you today. So do we have any?
Yes, we do. All right. So the main question I see is they want advice. So especially to the recent MBA graduates, what advice would you give them?
Recent MBA graduates.
Yes.
There's a lot of advice I could give. I got to be honest, because it all depends on what kind of path they want to follow in life. I feel, for me at least, was where do I see myself in 5 years and what are the steps I need to get there? A lot of us think in big, very big proportions, like, oh, I want to be here at 30 or at 35. And it's not thinking about that big goal. It's what do I need to do? I graduated with my MBA. Okay, so what do I do? Do I get an internship? Do I get a job? Do I move to my doctorate? What's your next step? Think minimal, and that's going to help you get to where you want to be. And the other thing is, stay true to yourself. Are you happy with what you're doing? Is this where you ultimately want to be? Because if you're going to be miserable, then you might want to reconsider the path you're currently on.
Are there things that you did while you were a student, or that in retrospect you wish you did along the way to prepare yourself for the next step?
So here's the thing. When I got to UHD, this was my second time around at college. My first time around, I was actually going to do a doctor of pharmacy. And what that experience showed me is, what do I love? Really focus on what you love, what makes sense to you. For me, it's numbers. For me, the American dream is making your money grow without having to work for it. So it sucks. And that was what I thought was my goal in life. And that's what I pursued. What do I need to learn to get there? And I feel like that's the question that if I would have asked myself from the very beginning, I would have saved myself some heartache. What do I want out of life? Where do I see myself being comfortable and happy?
So not the major or degree program that sounds good, but the one that you think supports your internal goals.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for example, my son loves to draw, and he just got into drawing. And so I've taken that. It's like, well, do you want to learn how to draw on a tablet? And maybe you can become a graphic designer. So I kind of gear it towards an actual, an actual career that they can live off of and they can be happy with at the same time.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. So advice for students. Yeah. Any other questions from our audience?
Yes, we have one question, and it says, I'm sure your line of work is very stressful. So what kind of advice do you have for burnout?
For burnout, this took me a very long time to learn, especially because I'm a mother of 3. My husband's on the road. So effectively, I am a single mom with great child support, is what I like to call it. You have to make time for yourself. I did not learn this until my mid-30s, and it cost me. But think of it this way. You are the pitcher that is constantly refilling everybody else. You need to make time for yourself to refill yourself. Sometimes that will be for me a manicure in the morning. Sometimes it will be sitting in my car with everything turned off and just a cup of coffee. Just to myself, reading a book. Make time to refill yourself. And that will start to permeate into the rest of your life. You'll see that your anxiety, diminishes, that your stress levels are going to be more manageable. But make time for yourself.
Thank you. So our next question is, as an undergraduate that wants to go for their MBA, do you think graduating and going into the workforce is recommended than going straight to your MBA?
Depends on where you are in life. For me, it made more sense to just complete it. And that was a goal I set for myself because I wanted to finish out my MBA before my oldest graduated high school. So it made sense to, as soon as I was done with my BBA, go straight into my MBA. Now, if you're unsure about whether you want to do your MBA, then maybe take some time in the workforce and see if it is worth the investment of time, and if you're going to get the return you want from it.
Thank you. So our next question is, did you have any mentors as you grew up into your career? How did you find them?
Well, my biggest mentor, I got to be honest, and he is the contracting officer that I still work with. His name is John Perhoda. Absolutely one of the best contracting officers I have worked with. From the very beginning, he sat me down and he asked me, what's your learning? How do you learn? Do you need to struggle through it? Do you want me to tell you it? How do you learn? And he's actually really let me expand my wings and really build my foundation and figure out who I wanted to be as a contract specialist. Mm-hmm. And he has supported me immensely along the way. And I don't think I could have done it with anyone else.
Awesome. So the next question is, how do you measure success beyond traditional metrics like revenue or growth? What would your definition of success be?
For me?
Well, or for our recent graduates.
Well, yeah. But like I said, I guess it depends. It depends on where you are. For me, success is having my kids being proud of me and talking about me in ways that, they feel they can show off of. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but that's what success is for me. My children are proud of me. For everyone else, that all depends on, again, what makes you happy. Are you happy traveling? Are you happy purchasing a home? Are you happy investing in real estate? I have a friend who has all sorts of businesses and that makes her happy and that's fulfilled something in her. So first of all, figure out who you are, what makes you and what makes you happy. And that's what I call success.
While their audience members are thinking of other questions to ask, I'll just ask kind of a follow-up to an answer you gave before. You've talked a little bit about mentorship and mentors that you've had and people that have inspired your work in one area or another. Mm-hmm. And this may be early for you to answer this question, but I'm interested in the seed that might get planted here. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about your mentorship of others? Have you thought about what your career progression might look like from the point of view of, the next generation of contract specialists or the next generation of entrepreneurs? Mm-hmm. Or what thoughts do you have about that?
So I try to be as transparent as possible with anyone I'm training. And I like, it's going to sound weird, but I like to train them the way I used to teach my kids when they were in elementary. I do it, we do it, you do it. And I'm always open to the conversations, but I try to explain to them my method of teaching is that I want to understand things in their basics at their most basic level and then teach it that way. Mm-hmm. So I've had 3 contract specialists that I have personally trained. I feel that it was a good experience and they've always been very happy. But I focus on that, getting them the details that they need and being transparent about it and explaining to them why we do things. It's not just here, do this. Mm-hmm. It's we do this because the FAR references this and this is the way it's processed and this is the way the law says and this makes sense to do it. Sometimes it's that too. It's not just the law. It's we got to do things that make sense. So that's my approach to mentorship.
Thank you. I think one of the ways that you're doing it that you didn't mention is just by being here today and
yes.
talking to the next generation of students. That wasn't a trick question. It's just, I think I kind of want to plant the seed in the minds of anybody watching this is just because you're currently, say, a student at UHD doesn't mean that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you might not be the person in this chair sharing some unique experiences with others or teaching a class or giving back to the community and the next generation of people in your particular way. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell my teenage daughter all the time. I give her advice. I've given her friends advice. Mm-hmm. So anytime that I can share what I have learned and what I have struggled to with someone and hopefully save them that struggle, I try to.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the audience?
Yes, we have one, and it's specific to accounting and finance. And that is, what are your thoughts on the most important skills to invest for the next 5 to 10 years for business, especially accounting and finance students, given the evolving technology landscape? So,
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last portion of the question?
So it's what are the most important skills students should invest on for the next 5 to 10 years, especially for accounting and finance fields?
See, that's the thing. What you could invest your time now in learning the new software and the whatever program's coming out, and then you're going to get to an employer and you don't need it. It's superfluous. Mm. So adaptability. I'm going to go back to that. Being able to say, okay, I use this while I was finishing my degree, but now I can't use that. I have to follow this protocol or use this system because that's what they have approved. And so being able to adapt. You're still going to have your knowledge with you. Whatever you learn remains with you forever. But being able to adapt is going to be, I want to say, the biggest recommendation I can give you.
I'll underline that too, just because here in the College of Business, we sort of focus on SAP as our enterprise system of choice, partly because it's important to the oil and gas industry. It's a huge international product and a lot of people use it, but not everyone.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that you graduate and you go and work for somebody who uses Oracle or something else, you've got to be adaptable, as you said, but the skills that you pick up in learning how to learn a system serve you or should serve you well in learning how to learn another system.
Okay. So we have SAP for our anytime we have to obligate funds, but not all the contracts are in SAP. So I sometimes have to shift gear. Okay, get out of SAP. I'm doing now PPS. And there's another software that's coming up shortly that we have to train on. So it's that constant. The knowledge is there. I know in essence what I have to do. It's just now I'm using another method to get there.
Yeah, it's the principles that matter, not the specifics.
Correct. Yes.
And we hear that all the time from employers. It's like, just make sure you understand, and we'll train you on what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Next comment/question is, your contribution here demonstrates servant leadership. Can you talk about the role servant leadership plays in both of your careers as well as your personal life?
I'm sorry, it's servant leadership?
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure I understand what that means.
We can go with leadership.
Okay. And could you repeat?
I can, yes. Sorry. It says that your contribution here demonstrates leadership, servant leadership.
Okay.
Can you talk about the role servant leadership plays in both of your careers as well as your personal life?
And just to clarify that, what I think the question might be, servant leadership is sort of a philosophy of leadership where the leader is not in charge per se, but it's the role of the leader to serve the people that they lead first and foremost. And it has, I think, some religious background, but mainly it's a philosophy of how a leader should view themselves in that role.
So, I find it interesting that there is a title for it now, because for me, that's been my philosophy my entire life. And even if I'm not in a formal leadership position, let's say I'm training someone who just came in, it's always been, regardless of whatever career it was, I took it upon myself to teach them because I wanted to make it easier. It would help the whole department. So as far as servant leadership, and I have always thought that the leader should lead by example. If you want your employees to know how to do something, you have to be able to teach them. You have to be able to step in and fill the gap wherever there is. So servant leadership for me is more of a lifestyle than an actual philosophy. That's the way I've always done. If I do it, I need to know how to do it to teach you how to do it and to make sure and to support you in learning that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've heard that said a number of ways by people who I have respect in leadership roles, and sometimes it's phrased, "I'll never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself."
And you will have those managers that will, that you'll sit there and think, "How did you get there?" But personally, I believe that if you are leading someone, you have to be able to teach them what they need to know. So you need to have a good grasp on that information before you disseminate it.
Thanks.
So we have a follow-up question regarding to the skill discussion, and you mentioned adaptability a few times, but to be specific, how do you develop those adaptability skills? And if you were to give an example from your career, have you demonstrated that skill?
It's a good question. Give me a second.
Or Dean Davis, if you wanted to.
So there's just so many things there's so many examples that I could give. And that's the same person that's doing accounting, was it? No.
Yes, it's accounting and finance.
Accounting and finance. Okay. Jeez. Do they by any chance, can I ask them a question just in case? Or, well, I just want to know, do they have a career field in mind? Here's why I ask. I have a trucking business and I use a certain specific program for software, software for my accounting. I work for NASA and I use 3 other systems to do their funding. But then I'm also dipping my toes into swing trading. So now I have a whole other set of systems that I look at. And that's the best example that I could give you because that's what I know personally. It's the shift. When I say adapt, you have to be able to shift gears. I'm looking at an Excel as an owner, but then I'm looking at this as an employee, and then I'm looking at that as a possible trader. So it's being able to shift the gears, and that's what I mean by adaptability. You have to be able to, in your mind, it's almost like, I don't know if you remember when you were in school, you had the locker rooms. You had your lockers, and between classes, you'd go and you switch the notebooks. It's almost like you have to do that mentally. Okay, I'm switching out this notebook. I'm pulling that one because this is the one I need now. And that's really what I mean by adaptability, being able to switch out gears and change your perspective depending on what you're looking at.
And how would you say you can develop those, or practice them?
Well, I think you practice it, especially when you're taking several courses at the same time. I used to take 3 classes in the same day. So being able to having to jump from one to another, I would go from econ to chemistry. And in your day-to-day life, you're going to gain the experience. And for me, unfortunately, I don't know that there's a specific way that you can hone that better than just your day-to-day. You're going to see it in your career, and as it progresses, you're going to get better at it.
I'll give you an example, give the audience an example of some personalities that I've run into in my career that might speak to this question a little bit. Usually, an organization will have some central system or maybe 2 systems that they rely on to do their work. And there's some deep expertise that is available to you if you dive into those systems and really understand its ins and outs and kind of become the expert on that system. And I've seen many times someone who will be that expert and they've really invested a lot of themselves in it. And for one reason or another, that system goes away and gets replaced by something else.
Yes.
And suddenly that person is lost.
Yes.
And they're mourning the loss of
Absolutely.
that expertise that they once had and the status that it once gave them.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they're no longer the person who can do things, but they're the person who has to, go to others and ask for help to do things. And that's a real shot across the bow for their self-worth.
I agree. Yes.
So, I mean, one way to interpret that adaptability and that flexibility is don't be afraid of those moments. Don't be afraid of those changes. Be available to be the expert on that new system and then the one after that.
Yes.
And I've seen that many times.
And it's very much, unless it's your business, and even if it is your own business, you're going to find times where this software works, it no longer works. Now I need to move into this one. So it inevitably is going to happen that you will need to change and shift gears. And that's why I say adaptability is one of the best skills you can have.
And it's a completely mental skill.
Absolutely.
Right? You develop it just by being mentally open to it.
Yes.
Frankly.
Yes. I agree.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question, and that is, you've reached a point in your career that many people aspire to be. Are you still learning every day? And when challenges come up, what does your problem-solving process look like?
Yes, I'm learning every day. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a phrase, and when I say we, I was born in Cuba. So there's a phrase that says, la sabiduría está repartida. Basically, wisdom is disseminated amongst the world. It just means no one knows everything. So yes, you are going to learn every day. Something new, even something minimal. Some days it'll be big things, some things it'll be small, but I am always open. I am a student of life is the way I like to refer to it. And I'm sorry, what was the secondary question?
And that is, when challenges come up, how does your problem solving look like? And then if you're still learning every day.
So I heard somewhere that you should give the biggest problem to the laziest person because they will find the easiest way to solve it. And I very much like that approach because it's like, okay, how do I approach this that's going to involve the least amount of my struggle? Now, that doesn't mean I don't research, but when I face a problem, I like to learn as much as possible about it. Because once I have a grasp of what's happening and the variables that are affecting it, then I know how to proceed. So at first I stand still and learn, and then is when I choose my path forward to solving that problem.
So you don't brute force it, you investigate it.
Oh, absolutely.
And then take the paths of least resistance.
Well, not necessarily the least resistance,
Or
but the least
effort.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to take the smart path, not the struggle, if I can avoid it.
Yep.
Great. So another question is, what is a leadership habit you once admired but later realized was unsustainable or turned out to be a myth?
You have to do everything perfectly every time. We lie to ourselves thinking that a great leader is perfect all the time and they cannot be wrong. And it's this myth that that leaders are untouchable. And it's not. The best leaders that I have had have been people that have been able to look at me and say, I gave you wrong information. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And having that humility and realizing, yes, you have a right to be a human. Yes, you have a right to be a mistake. Owning up to that mistake and correcting it.
I'll just add to that. I think it's incredibly important for leaders to be able to say, I don't know.
Yes. Also, thank you for that. Yes.
Right? I mean,
yes.
It's an extension of exactly what I think you just said is being appropriately humble about what your knowledge and skills and capabilities encompass and sharing that and getting the support that you need for the organization to move forward. It's
absolutely
surprising how many people cannot do that.
Well, yeah, and especially in my field. I mean, how many executive orders have been come out in the last year? And a lot of them have affected our agency. So, being able to say, I don't know, but I will research it and get back to you.
Right.
Is, it gives you a sort of a sense of trust that they really are going to look into this and they're listening to what I'm saying and what my concerns are.
All right. I guess one more before last question would be, what is your biggest advice for someone who has a broad experience in different fields rather than just one field of expertise?
Oh. concentrate what makes you happy. And the reason I say this is because I am one of those people. I have worked in a bakery, at a bridal shop, in a travel agency. I worked for TSA for a while. So I have done a little bit of everything. And it wasn't until my husband told me, study money, that's what you like doing, that it clicked for me. And when I finally pushed, I was able to complete my degrees because it's something that it spoke to me. So figure out what that is for you, for each individual person, what resonates with you, and study that and follow that.
Awesome.
I'm hearing also, don't be afraid to have the people in your life that love you and know you the best reflect things to you about you that you might not
Absolutely
quite get without their help.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, my husband was a great support, but I have to be honest, I wouldn't have been able to do it without my daughter, my oldest, Aurora. The immense amount of support that she provided. And she was sometimes the only one at home that would be able to come to me and give me a hug and say, it's okay, Mom. You'll finish it. Just take some time and breathe. Or she'll tell me, I'll stay with the kids. Why don't you go get some food and sit by yourself and have some time? Mm-hmm. So it's great to have a support system and people who really are there for you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So last question will be, if you could talk to yourself when you were a senior in college, what would you tell her?
Take notes. In the sense that for a very long time, I felt that if I didn't memorize everything, that I was a failure. Like, oh my God, my mind is failing me. And then along the way, I realized if I put it on paper, my mind doesn't have to struggle to recall this information. So that's what I started doing. I carry around a notebook. I write my appointments. I have a notebook for work and have a notebook for my personal stuff, and put it on paper. Get it out of your head. Don't make your mind have to go through the struggle of recalling information when you can just write it down. And when I say notebooks, I have physical notebooks, but then at work, I also have a work tracker and I have OneNote. Just write it down. Don't stress yourself out. I'd say is something I would definitely tell myself some years ago.
Sound advice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we've come to the end of our questions. So I want to say thank you so much, Ms. Rodriguez, for joining us. Congratulations on graduating from UHD with 2 degrees. Congratulations on a great family and a very supportive husband and daughter. Congratulations on your career that's burgeoning at Janssen Space Center and your entrepreneurship. So appreciate your time here. Thank you for sharing all of this wisdom with our audience here today. And thank you to your audience for joining us today. Thank you so much. We will be back again probably next month with another edition.